And what do you do for a living?
I've been a janitor for 23 years, yes.
Okay, all right. And the song you've
He was just a janitor, or so everyone thought. For over 2 decades, Richard Goodall quietly walked the halls of a middle school in Terre Haute, Indiana, armed not with fame or fortune, but with a mop, a broom, and a voice no one saw coming. That all changed when one performance, one golden buzzer, and one viral video flipped his world upside down. But this isn't just another overnight sensation story. It's the tale of a man who spent years in the shadows of school corridors, silently bearing the weight of personal loss and professional rejection, only to be catapulted into the national spotlight. Viewers from across the globe are asking, who is Richard Goodall, and how did he go from janitor to viral singing sensation? The answer lies not just in the notes he sings, but in the life he's lived and the odds he's beaten. As Richard's golden-voiced audition continues to inspire millions, this is a story America's Got Talent didn't show you. A story of hope, heartbreak, and a second chance that was decades in the making. Before the glitter of confetti and the roar of an adoring crowd, Richard Goodall led a life most would call ordinary. Born and raised in the quiet town of Terre Haute, Indiana, he lived just 3 blocks away from Chantereau's Middle School, the place where he worked for 23 years as a janitor. To many, he was just a friendly custodian who always had a warm smile and a kind word for students and staff alike. But behind the scenes, Richard harbored a lifelong love of music. He often retreated to his bedroom with a Radio Shack stereo, belting out his favorite tunes to the walls that became his only audience. It was never about fame or applause, it was about passion. Day after day, he cleaned classrooms and hallways, humming tunes under his breath, occasionally offering a private concert to students who passed by. Despite his devotion to music, Richard never chased the spotlight, instead embracing the steady rhythm of his humble life. That all changed when his students, who had become quiet witnesses to his talent, encouraged him to pursue something more. They saw what the world hadn't yet, a man with a voice that could silence rooms and stir hearts. But for years, Richard remained grounded, unsure if the world was ready for someone like him. Little did he know, the world was about to find out. It began not on a national stage, but in a humble school auditorium during the summer of 2022 at Davis Park Elementary School. Richard Goodall, then still known primarily as the janitor with a kind heart and a love for music, was invited to sing at the school's end-of-year program. With nothing more than a microphone and his voice, he performed Journey's Don't Stop Believin', a song that would become synonymous with his own life story. Someone recorded the performance and uploaded it online, perhaps thinking it would just be a sweet local moment. But that clip struck a nerve far beyond Terre Haute. Viewers were stunned, not just by the quality of Richard's vocals, but by the sheer emotion he poured into the song. In an era saturated with auto-tuned celebrities and polished acts, here was a man with no fame, no formal training, and no ego, just pure, raw talent. The video went viral in a matter of days, reaching people across the country and eventually catching the attention of those who could help him reach an even wider audience. His students, who had always been his biggest fans, saw this moment as validation and redoubled their efforts to push him towards something bigger. They repeatedly told him he had what it took to go far. They believed in him more than he believed in himself, and their encouragement turned into a kind of relentless campaign to make Richard realize his potential. As thousands watched and re-watched the school performance, one thing became clear. Richard Goodall wasn't just a school janitor anymore. He had become a symbol of overlooked talent and the power of community support. And though he didn't know it yet, that viral moment had already begun rewriting the course of his life. While Richard's story may now appear as an inspiring fairy tale, the path to his golden moment was riddled with rejection and disappointment. Long before the applause and standing ovations, Richard had tried to chase his dream and had been told no. In 2009, he auditioned for America's Got Talent in Chicago, but didn't make it past the first round. Years later, in another attempt to break through, he submitted a virtual audition for The Voice, only to receive a rejection email that cut deeper than expected. That digital dismissal hit him so hard, he took to social media and posted the screenshot, laying bare the emotional toll of being told once again that his voice wasn't enough. It was a moment of vulnerability that showed the world a side of Richard few had seen, the artist crushed by a dream denied. the man who had every reason to give up. And for a while, he nearly did. He lowered his expectations, convinced that maybe the spotlight wasn't meant for someone like him. But something inside him refused to stay silent. Perhaps it was his students' unwavering faith, or maybe the tiny flicker of hope he couldn't quite extinguish. Whatever the reason, Richard decided to try one last time. He auditioned again for AGT, this time with no illusions, no grand expectations, just the hope that someone somewhere might finally hear what he had to say. That final leap of faith would soon change everything. But in that moment, Richard was just a man chasing a dream that had long felt out of reach. The stage lights were blinding, the cameras relentless, and for Richard Goodall, just stepping onto that platform meant confronting a lifetime's worth of fear and hope all at once. Having never even boarded a plane before, Richard's trip to audition for America's Got Talent marked a series of firsts. His first flight, his first national stage, and potentially his first chance to finally be heard. As he stood trembling before a live audience and the famously intimidating panel of judges, Simon Cowell, Heidi Klum, Sofia Vergara, and Howie Mandel, there was no flash or theatrics, just a quiet man with a microphone. When asked what he would perform, he simply replied with Journey's Don't Stop Believin', the same song that had moved his school and the internet. What followed was nothing short of extraordinary. From the first note, his voice resonated with emotion and clarity that silenced the crowd. It wasn't just good, it was breathtaking. The performance built steadily, layer by layer, until by the final chorus, the audience was on their feet. A standing ovation erupted before the final note even faded, with all four judges rising in unison. But it was Heidi Klum who made the moment unforgettable. Overcome with emotion, she praised Richard not just for his talent, but for the courage it took to share it with the world. And then she hit the golden buzzer. As gold confetti rained down and Richard stood in stunned disbelief, the world watched a man's decades of quiet longing transform into triumph. The audition quickly racked up millions of views on YouTube, with comments pouring in from fans who had never met him but felt like they knew his story. Many remarked how his bravery inspired them, how his voice gave them chills, and how his performance felt like a reminder that no dream is too old or too far gone. In that moment, Richard Goodall was no longer just a janitor from Indiana. He was the heart and soul of a nation rooting for the underdog. Despite the standing ovations and viral fame, Richard Goodall remains deeply rooted in who he's always been, a humble man who never set out to be a celebrity. He still lives just blocks away from the school where he worked for over 2 decades, and he still speaks with the same unassuming warmth that made him beloved in Terre Haute long before the cameras showed up. Ask anyone in his community, and they'll tell you that Richard's kindness came before his voice ever did. He was the janitor who greeted students by name, who stayed late to help teachers, who brightened halls with a quiet song under his breath. Fame, however, brought a new chapter. After his school performance went viral and his AGT audition took off, Richard didn't chase Hollywood. He kept singing for the people who believed in him first. He continues to perform at school events and local venues, always grateful, never forgetting where it all began. Beyond his solo journey, Richard is also the lead singer of a band called Manapa. The viral momentum breathed new life into the group's schedule, suddenly flooding them with gig offers and fans eager to hear more. His Instagram, once a modest feed of personal updates, transformed into a hub for show announcements and behind-the-scenes moments. Audiences from all walks of life began showing up, not for flashy production, but for the authenticity Richard exudes on stage. He doesn't perform to impress, he performs to connect. And perhaps that's why he stands out in an era of curated perfection, because he's real. To his fans, Richard isn't just a singer. He's a reminder that sincerity still matters, that kindness still resonates, and that sometimes the most extraordinary voices come from the most unexpected places. While the world saw a beaming Richard Goodall basking in golden confetti and well-earned applause, few knew of the deep sorrow he carried quietly behind that warm smile. Long before his audition stunned America, Richard faced a heartbreaking chapter that changed the course of his personal life forever. The loss of his wife of over 30 years to a devastating battle with cancer. This wasn't just a passing mention or distant memory. It was a soul-shattering experience that left him emotionally broken. In a deeply personal and poignant Instagram post, Richard opened up about the pain, revealing how he did everything within his power to save her, clinging to hope even as it slipped through his fingers. He wrote not with bitterness, but with aching love, a tribute to the woman who had stood by him for decades and whose absence left a void no applause could fill. He admitted to feeling devastated, sharing how the silence of his home echoed louder than any stadium cheers ever could. Yet despite the crushing grief, Richard didn't let his story end in tragedy. As time passed and the weight of mourning began to ease, he found love again with Angie, a woman he affectionately mentioned during his AGT audition. While it may seem sudden to outsiders, Angie represented a new beginning, a light after the storm. Their relationship became a quiet testament to resilience, the idea that even after profound loss, joy can return. For fans, learning about this chapter added a deeper layer to his already emotional journey. It painted a fuller picture of a man who had not only been overlooked professionally, but had endured heartbreak that might have silenced anyone else. Instead, Richard chose to keep singing. And in that voice, perhaps, are the echoes of both love lost and love found. He sings not just to fulfill a dream, but to honor a past he never forgets and a future he's still building. In every note, there's a whisper of pain, strength, and hope, the hallmarks of a life lived fully, even through sorrow. Behind the scenes of Richard Goodall's triumphant golden buzzer moment lay a struggle few fans could see, the daunting cost of following a dream. While America's Got Talent showcased his incredible voice and touching story, the financial reality of being a contestant on a national stage presented a different challenge altogether. From flights and hotel stays to time off work and unexpected expenses, the price of opportunity was steep. And for someone who had spent decades working a modest job, it was overwhelming. Initially, Richard wasn't even sure he could afford to move forward in the competition, despite earning one of the show's highest honors. But then something remarkable happened. The AGT team, recognizing both his talent and the burden he carried, stepped in not just with moral support, but with financial help. They covered the essential travel and accommodation costs, making sure Richard wouldn't have to choose between following his dream and paying his bills. Even more impactful was the GoFundMe campaign launched on his behalf, which quickly caught fire online. Donations poured in from people across the country, many of whom had never met Richard but felt deeply moved by his story. Within days, the campaign raised over $9,000, a staggering amount that reflected not just admiration, but solidarity. The outpouring of generosity gave Richard what he needed most: peace of mind. For once, he could focus entirely on his performance without the shadow of financial stress. Supporters wrote messages filled with love and gratitude, telling him that his courage gave them strength, that his voice brought them comfort. In an age where fame often feels fleeting and fake, Richard's story reminded everyone that sometimes real talent combined with authenticity still matters. And when it does, people show up. What started as a simple dream from a school janitor had become a nationwide movement of kindness, proving that when one voice rises, countless others are willing to lift it higher. After the emotional wave of his America's Got Talent audition subsided, Richard Goodall found himself standing at the edge of a new life, one he had never dared to imagine, yet now had to navigate. The fame didn't fade. Instead, it evolved, growing beyond the confines of one performance. His once sleepy social media pages became hotspots for fans eager to follow his journey, and suddenly, the humble janitor from Terre Haute was fielding opportunities from across the entertainment world. Among the most notable was an invitation from Rudy Cardenas, a well-known American Idol finalist, who had been deeply moved by Richard's viral video. Rudy reached out personally and asked him to perform in a special joint concert, a collaboration that not only validated Richard's talent, but elevated it to new levels of public recognition. When Richard stepped on stage next to Rudy, he didn't falter. He soared. His performance was once again met with stunned applause and emotional reactions, reaffirming that his success was not a fluke. But even as these opportunities unfolded, Richard didn't abandon his roots. His band, Manapa, experienced an unexpected surge in popularity. Gigs that once came sporadically were now lining up faster than ever, with new venues eager to book the group just to hear the guy with the golden voice in person. Richard became a local hero with national reach, and his shows began drawing fans from out of state. He used his Instagram to update followers about upcoming performances, sharing stories, photos, and behind-the-scenes moments that made them feel part of the ride. Each venue he visited, each song he sang, became another step in a journey that proved it was never too late to chase what you love. With the support of new fans, industry veterans, and the community that had believed in him all along, Richard now finds himself not at the end of a dream, but at the very beginning of a promising and impactful new chapter. He may have once walked school halls pushing him up, but today he walks stages with the world watching. Richard Goodall's story isn't just about music, talent shows, or viral videos. It's about something deeper, something that resonates far beyond the spotlight. It's a story of resilience, of a man who faced crushing rejection, heart-wrenching personal loss, and decades of invisibility, only to rise with grace and humility when the world finally looked his way. His voice, as captivating as it is only one part of the magic. What truly sets Richard apart is his unwavering spirit and authenticity in a world obsessed with image and instant gratification. He never pretended to be someone else, never chased fame for the sake of being famous. He simply sang because it brought him peace, and when others finally heard him, they felt that peace too. That's why his journey resonates so powerfully. It reminds us that talent doesn't come with an age limit, that dreams don't expire just because the world hasn't noticed yet, and that kindness, patience, and authenticity still have a place in our culture. Richard didn't arrive with a record deal or flashy production. He arrived with heart. He reminded us that the most extraordinary stories often come from the most overlooked places. He turned a school auditorium into a launching pad, a viral video into a second chance, and a golden buzzer into a beacon for everyone who's ever felt unseen. In a time when so many people feel forgotten or left behind, Richard Goodall stands as proof that it's never too late to be heard. His voice may have wowed the judges, but his journey moved the world. And whether he's singing on a national stage or in a local school gym, Richard's mission remains the same: to uplift, to inspire, and to remind us all to never stop believing.